The making of one of the biggest albums of the 80s was full of drama, comedy, secret messages, and young lust. The escapades of Def Leppard's mega album, Pyromania, with an exclusive interview with Joe Elliott himself and Neal Schon, a journey next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. Make sure to subscribe right now to this channel so you're always in the know for the new interviews and videos coming out. And you can become a part of our inside circle. More interviews, more videos by clicking on the Patreon link below. Check it out. Def Leppard was on a steady path of progression, leading to the recording of their third studio album, Pyromania, in early '82. The band's debut LP, On Through the Night, was a platinum seller in the US and Canada, and their second album, High and Dry, was twice as successful, sold over 2 million units in America. Def Leppard's invaluable partnership with preeminent record producer Mutt Lange was, of course, forged on the High and Dry album that led to even loftier achievements on their next two albums. Recording an album with Def Leppard is always an adventure, of course. There wasn't as much turbulence as there was during the making of Hysteria, but the Pyromania sessions were not without drama. The biggest soap opera was the sacking of founding member Pete Willis. The band was well into the recording of Pyromania when everything came to a head. Willis was a notorious partier, and his alcohol abuse proved toxic for his bandmates. After a heavy night of drinking, Willis stumbled into the recording studio completely unable to play his guitar parts on the track Stage Fright. Mutt was disgusted at his unprofessionalism and told Willis to go home and dry up. The other three members asked then-manager Pete Mensch to fire Willis, but Mensch refused. He says, it's your band. You do it, you're big boys. Not only was Willis a founding member, but he had been a very integral part of the band's sound, especially on the preceding High and Dry. But Willis's drinking had been a major issue within the band for several years. Def Leppard, of course, had lofty goals, and their potential for something grand with Pyromania was absolutely evident. The last thing that they needed was a toxic relationship to wreck their future prosperity. To replace Pete Willis, Joe Elliott and Steve Clark recruited guitarist Phil Collen, who had been playing with the band Girl. Elliott and Clark had serious discussions with Collen about joining Def Leppard a year prior, since they were losing confidence in Willis well before his official dismissal. But they decided, to give Pete another chance to get his act together at that time. Phil Collen hit it off with the core foursome from the outset and quickly established a brotherly relationship with the guys, especially with fellow lead guitarist, the beloved, the late Steve Clark. Phil, of course, has become an indispensable cornerstone of Def Leppard ever since his arrival in late '82. He's just a model of conviction and professionalism. Clark and Collen, who were called the Terror Twins, created a double guitar assault that became a defining module of the Def Leppard sound. Incredible. As with Hysteria, the Pyromania album took a long time to complete. The band started working on the record in early '82, and it took nearly the entire year to finish. Pyromania was released in January 1983 with a tsunami of passion for its fire and brimstone rock that countered the synth-heavy music of the prevailing new wave scene at that time. It was the must-have rock album of the first half of the '80s for sure, and still evokes the power and the glory that made the music so captivating back in the day. MTV, of course, jumped all over the David Mallet-directed music video for Photograph, the first single released from the album. Photograph steamrolled to #1 on the mainstream rock chart and was Def Leppard's breakthrough on the Billboard Hot 100. It rose to number 12. The track was co-written by Joe Elliott, Rick Savage, Steve Clark, Mutt Lange, and the ousted Pete Willis. Mutt thought of the line, "All I got is a photograph." But the band was worried that people would think that they were ripping off Ringo Starr, who of course used the same line in his 1973 solo hit Photograph. All I've got is a photograph. But Mutt contended the guys were overthinking it. and that people wouldn't associate a Def Leppard song with a Ringo tune. And of course, he was right. The band uses a photograph of Marilyn Monroe in their video backdrop whenever they perform Photograph in concert. Although the song wasn't necessarily an ode to Marilyn, it's 100% pertaining to young lust, about wanting something desperately that you can't have, as Joe Elliott would later say in interviews. Now, the second single from Pyromania was Def Leppard's call to action, Rock of Ages. Rock of Ages was a collab of Joe, Mutt, and Steve, and it was Mutt who invented the most famous part of the song, the German-sounding gibberish that opens the song. Now, those words are meaningless in German or any dialect, except for the universal language of rock and roll, where, of course, the phrase is notoriously spoken. Was later used as the title of a poem by American poet Michael Robbins. It was used in the production of the Rock of Ages musical. It's actually the opening of the alt-rock anthem Pretty Fly for a White Guy by The Offspring. The Offspring incorporated the phrase as kind of a screw you response to Rolling Stone magazine, one of the writers, who called the band the Def Leppard of alternative rock, which I would say is a compliment. But there's some good humor surrounding the origin of Mutt Lange, of course, well-known perfectionist, who was infamous for directing seemingly excessive, multiple, unnecessary takes in a recording session. The producer grew tired of always saying the typical 1, 2, 3, 4, before each take. So he started messing around, uttering waggish rhythmic patterns, including one with 4 different types of Indian cuisine. When Mutt used his made-up German-like drivel, the band thought it was hilarious and they wanted to open the song with it. Mutt had the honors of voicing the nonsensical intro of Rock of Ages on the final recording, which of course is fitting since it was his concoction. Thunder God Rick Allen voices the phrase during Def Leppard's live shows. Joe Elliott lifted lyrics from Neil Young after his mischievous chortle and the intro of Rock of Ages. I've got something to say, it's better to burn out than fade away. Those words, of course, straight out of Neil Young's song My Hey Hey Out of the Blue, a track that can be found on Neil's Rust Never Sleeps album. Great album, classic. The group had the music for Rock of Ages, but they were struggling with a song title and lyrics. Of course, that all changed when Joe found a hymn book for a children's choir that had used the same recording studio before Def Leppard took over the room. In that hymn book, Joe saw the words Rock of Ages, and it not only ignited the song's title, it started the steady flow of lyrics for the track. Another interesting uncovering is the backmasking. It was placed underneath the Phil Collen guitar solo of Rock of Ages. When the backmasking is played forward, you can hear the phrases Blink the Russians and Brezhnev's got herpes. Even Def Leppard had a Cold War dig that was so prevalent in the music of the 80s. Rock of Ages burned up the mainstream rock chart, went to number 1 and hit number 16 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was the highest charting single from Pyromania in the band's native UK. It peaked at number 41, which is such a head scratcher to me. I mean, how were Def Leppard's songs not bigger in their homeland from this album? It's just crazy. The third single from Pyromania was Foolin. Joe, Steve, and Mutt wrote the tune together. Foolin, with its cryptic acoustic intro, was another top 40 from the album. Went to number 28 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it climbed to number 9 on the mainstream rock chart. Foolin was followed by the fourth single, Too Late for Love, which was co-written by Pete Willis. Too Late for Love missed the top 40 chart, but it was another top 10 rock track, rising to number 9 on the mainstream rock chart. One of my favorite album cuts off of Pyromania is the first track on the album, Rock Rock Till You Drop. I love that song. It was actually originally titled Medicine Man, and it's just a classic fist-pumping Def Leppard. Just a classic. Def Leppard's Pyromania is just one of those essential albums that you just let roll from track 1 to track 10. It's an epic album for so many reasons. Starting with the ambition and respective talent of the band members, and the conduction by the incomparable Mutt Lange, who is deeply involved in every song and every aspect of the album's creation. In addition to his skill at shaping his songs, Mutt had great vision about Def Leppard, maximizing the blazing force of the Twin Terrors guitar brigade, bringing the best out of lead vocalist Joe Elliott, bassist Rick Savage, and drummer Rick Allen, and punctuating each track with the group's booming, multi-voice, layered choruses. Thomas Dolby, the 24-year-old wunderkind, who was just starting to develop traction with his first LP, The Golden Age of Wireless, in '82, actually performed keyboards on several recording sessions for Pyromania under a pseudonym. Dolby had actually played the keys on Foreigner's number 2 hit, Waiting for a Girl Like You, a bit earlier. But on Pyromania, he was a hired keyboard player, and he was credited as Booker T. Boffin, an alias that Mutt actually invented. Tony Kaye of Yes fame provided additional keyboard parts that were uncredited. And another amusing tidbit in the liner notes is the crediting of the Leppardettes as background vocalists on Pyromania. The Leppardettes were actually Joe Elliott, Phil Collen, Rick Savage, Mutt Lange, and Rocky Newton. Another example of the band's cool sense of humor. I mean, this band, they worked hard at their craft, but, Def Leppard knew how to have fun during the process. It was just a great foundation for their next musical conquest that would become the album Hysteria, which would include world domination, let's be honest. The road from Pyromania to Hysteria would be long and treacherous, but that's another story for another day. Most hardcore Def Leppard fans favor Pyromania, I think, as the band's masterpiece, and they're not wrong. In my opinion, both Pyromania and Hysteria are absolute, no doubt about it, masterworks. From a commercial standpoint, they're both blockbusters, with Hysteria bigger in terms of hit singles and sales. But if you stop and think about it, Def Leppard is only one of a few hard rock bands to have had 2 masterpieces / blockbusters in a row. And obviously AC/DC, Journey, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, a few others. But here's a fact for you. Def Leppard is one of only a few acts in all of music to have had 2 consecutive studio albums sell over 10 million copies each. In the rock category, only Zeppelin has done this. Again, 2 straight studio albums to have sold 10 million units, or as the RIA defines it, diamond albums. Not even the Beatles have done that. 2 straight diamond-selling albums. Producer Mutt Lange has actually done it twice with Def Leppard and with Shania Twain. Shania actually had 3 in a row. It's amazing. Anyway, Pyromania sold over 10 million copies in America, and was yet another blockbuster album that was denied the number 1 spot on the Billboard Top 200 album chart by Michael Jackson's unrelenting Thriller in '83. Interestingly, Michael Jackson and Def Leppard are the only 2 acts in the '80s to have had 2 diamond studio albums. Springsteen almost did it. One was a live album, so you can't count it. That's right, Madonna, Prince, Guns N' Roses, Van Halen, none accomplished that. That should give you a little bit of an idea of how massive Def Leppard is in the hearts of my generation and beyond. Very few artists can fill up a stadium or an entire set with not only hit singles, but songs that are personal soundtrack of our very lives. A few years ago, when Def Leppard and Journey co-headlined a massive tour, I sat down with the leaders of each band, Joe Elliott of Def Leppard and Neal Schon of Journey, what a privilege, and asked them both about this, and their answer was quite hilarious. Now, as I show you this clip, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, my personal #1 eyewear company. Love these glasses, and you will too. Check it out at the link below. You can design your own. Here are Joe and Neal. What's a song from both of you, from Journey and from Def Leppard, that you truly respect? 1 or 2 songs that you look at and you say, man, I wish I'd written that song. Because, I mean,
it goes way beyond just one song for me.
Yeah.
I mean, because the nature of this tour is this is a celebration. It's not a victory lap, but it's a celebration of what we do. So you know, the obscure stuff, you have to marginalize it and shove it out to one side. We do like one song that people don't really know, and the rest of it, everybody does. So I listen to their set every night, and it's just song after song after song. I said before the tour started, I want you guys to play Chain Reaction. But
we played it once.
Played it once. And thank you. And I appreciate the fact you did it.
I wanted to keep playing it, but nobody else did.
When you've got songs like Lights and Don't Stop Believing, I mean, it's endless. The set it's endless hits.
Yeah. And so the same with their set. It's one after another.
So what are a couple of songs from Def Leppard?
I love their whole set. They all sound like hit singles to me.
Yeah, well, most of them were. That's which is why we're doing this.
Right.
You know?
It's wild. Right. They come off, and then you come on, and you do like 3 in a row that are like a long encore, and it's bam, bam, bam. And I'm like,
well, we do Rock of Ages and Photograph for the very end. Before that, we got Sugar. You know, these are the songs that we try and build a climax. I mean, as these guys would. Why wouldn't you? You know, I mean, that's the whole point of the set, really.
Totally.
Is to take people to an orgasm, if you like. You know,
yeah.
Music, well, at least
if
a musical.
Like.
There isn't a dry seat in the house.
You've got 7 dates left. Number 1 on the Billboard Hot Tours, which is incredible. It just shows the power of this music, that it will last hundreds of years from now. I mean, my kids love your music as much as I did when I was a kid. It's multi-generational, both band. But what's the standout moment for you guys each on this tour so far?
I don't know. I personally, I've loved the stadiums.
Yep.
You know, I love getting outside again. I think both bands, you know, we built our music to play in places that size. They were the best dates for me. They sounded the best. This is like really echoey in here, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the arenas aren't built for sound; they're built for sports, as are the stadiums. But the stadiums don't have a roof, except for when we played Toronto because it was raining. That turned it into the biggest arena on the planet, and I think we had a 12-second splashback. So you have to just take them on the chin and appreciate the fact that they are what they are. The stadiums, when you stand where we stand, it's kind of difficult to explain to anybody that's never done it what it's actually like to see. Like when these guys are playing Lights, 50,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
These days, cell phones out.
Cell phone,
And they're singing so loud you can't even hear the band.
You can't hear yourself.
Yeah. It's like wild.
It's kind of like the reasons that Lennon wanted to never play live again, the exact reasons we do.
Yeah.
Because we got a better PA system than they had.
That's right.
That's true. Columns back then, right?
I remember loving Pyromania, you know, as a kid. Of course, due to seeing Photograph on MTV. I admit that I took it for granted until Hysteria blew my mind, and it made me re-listen and rediscover not only Pyromania, but all of the Def Leppard early records. You know, one of the majestic songs from Pyromania has the most appropriate title, because what Def Leppard is and will always be is the Rock of Ages. Leave us a comment about this amazing band and this record. What do you remember about this time when this album came out and the songs from it? If you like our content, we do invite you to subscribe, to join our community. To hear this album, click on the playlist below. To get the album for your collection, you gotta do it. Or to get the shirt that I'm wearing, go to our Amazon links below. If you want to help us curate this content and see other unreleased videos, become a producer, become a patron at the link below. Help us keep the music alive. Very important. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe.